The print log entry that breaks the operation open is 47 characters long. It appears at 9:03 p.m. in the Classified Document Management System maintained at the Combined Air Operations Center at Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, and its content is, on the surface, entirely consistent with the kind of routine administrative activity that generates hundreds of similar entries every day in a facility that processes the operational planning output for the most complex air campaign the United States has conducted since 2003. A user account associated with a DIA assigned intelligence analyst prints a 31-page document to the secure printer in room 14C. The document is titled Epic Fury Strike Package Bravo, Target Validation Summary, Sortie Wave 3. It is classified at the TS/SCI level with a special access caveat that restricts its distribution to 22 named personnel within the CAOC's Intelligence and Operations Integration Cell. The analyst's account is on the Authorized Access list. The print request is authenticated by the system. The document prints. End of transaction. The Document Management System's Anomaly Detection Module flags the transaction at 9:04 p.m., 1 minute after the print job completes, and routes a low-priority notification to the system administrator's queue. The flag is not a security alert. It is a data integrity notification. The document that was printed, all 31 pages of it, was printed 4 hours and 17 minutes after the same document was retrieved from the secure digital archive and marked for scheduled destruction at 1:20 a.m., consistent with the standard pre-execution operational security protocol that requires all hard copy and electronic versions of a strike planning document to be confirmed destroyed before the strike package it describes is executed. A document scheduled for destruction at 1:20 a.m. should not be generating a hard copy print job at 9:03 p.m. The hard copy was not authorized. The print request should have been blocked by the system's pre-destruction lockout function, but the lockout had not yet been applied. It is applied at 1 a.m. as part of the automated pre-execution cleanup sequence, and the analyst's valid access credentials allowed the request to proceed. The system administrator reads the flag at 9:31 p.m. He is a GS-12 Civilian Information System Specialist who has been managing classified document systems at Al Udeid for 26 months. He has seen print anomaly flags before. They are usually misdirected jobs, wrong printer selections, or users who printed a document they had legitimate access to, but no current operational need to hold in hard copy. He opens the flag, reads the document title, sees the special access caveat, and immediately understands that this is not a misdirected print job. He escalates to the CAOC's Information Security Officer at 9:34 p.m. The Information Security Officer reads the escalation at 9:36 p.m. She has 19 years in Air Force information assurance, and she does not need the document title contextualized for her. She understands in the first reading what she is looking at. A 31-page hard copy of a TS/SCI strike planning document for Wave 3 of Operation Epic Fury has been printed by an analyst's account at 9:03 p.m. and is currently sitting in the output tray of the secure printer in room 14C, or is in the physical possession of whoever retrieved it. Wave 3 executes in 6 hours and 17 minutes. She calls the CAOC Director of Intelligence at 9:38 p.m. The Director of Intelligence calls the CAOC Commander at 9:41 p.m. By 9:44 p.m., a 3-person security response team is moving toward room 14C through a corridor that, from the outside, looks like 2 men and a woman walking at a normal pace between offices. They are not walking at a normal pace internally. Inside room 14C, the secure printer's output tray is empty. The printer's internal job log confirms the 31-page job completed at 9:04 p.m. The document is not in the room. The analyst whose account authorized the print job is located in the CAOC's Intelligence Integration Cell on the second floor at 9:47 p.m., sitting at his workstation, reviewing overhead imagery associated with Wave 3's target set. He is in the building. He does not have the document. When asked directly and without preamble whether he printed a copy of the Wave 3 target validation summary, he says yes. When asked where the document is, he says he brought it to his workstation to review and then returned it to room 14C for shredding. When asked why he printed it in the first place when the same document was available on his workstation screen, he pauses for 4 seconds before answering. The pause is noted. His answer, that he finds hard copy easier to annotate during a final target validation review, is procedurally plausible. Analysts at the CAOC do print documents for review. The access controls on the printer and the document were both properly satisfied by his credentials. There is, at 9:48 p.m., no evidence of wrongdoing and no basis for detention. There is a 31-page hard copy of a TS/SCI strike planning document that is unaccounted for, and a 4-second pause in response to a direct question about its location. Those two facts, in combination with a Wave 3 execution time of 1:20 a.m., that is now 5 hours and 32 minutes away, are sufficient to open a formal security incident investigation with a timeline that does not have room for uncertainty. The investigation that begins at 9:49 p.m. is run simultaneously on 2 tracks. The first track is the document. Where is the hard copy? Who has touched it? And whether any portion of its content has been transmitted outside the building. The second track is the analyst, his access history, his communication records, and his background, all reviewed under the emergency provisions of the CAOC Commander's Force Protection Authority that permit real-time access to digital communication logs without the prior authorization that would normally be required. The document track produces results within 22 minutes. The CAOC's physical security camera system, which covers all printer rooms, corridor junctions, and exit points, is pulled and reviewed at accelerated playback from 9 p.m. onward. At 9:04 p.m., the Room 14C camera shows the analyst retrieving the printed document from the output tray. He folds it once and carries it out of the room. The corridor camera tracks him to the stairwell. At 9:06 p.m., the stairwell camera shows him ascending to the 3rd floor. At 9:07 p.m., the 3rd floor corridor camera shows him entering the men's restroom adjacent to the 3rd floor conference suite. He is in the restroom for 4 minutes and 11 seconds. He exits at 9:11 p.m. without the document. The restroom is searched at 10:08 p.m. The document is not there. The restroom's trash receptacle, ceiling panels, and plumbing access spaces are all checked. The document is gone. The 4 minutes and 11 seconds in the restroom are the operational window. Whatever happened to the document happened in that window. The restroom has no camera coverage, a standard design for a facility that balances physical security with personnel privacy requirements. There is a ventilation grate in the restroom ceiling with accessible mounting screws. There is a narrow maintenance void above the grate that has been used before, in a different facility at a different base, for a similar purpose. The maintenance void at Udeid's 3rd floor restroom is checked at 10:11 p.m. It contains a folded piece of paper, not the full 31-page document, but a single page, page 7, which carries the geographic coordinates and facility descriptions for 6 of the 22 primary target nodes in Wave 3's strike package. A small photographic device, assessed as a miniaturized document scanning unit consistent with commercially available covert photography equipment, is found secured to the grate mounting bracket with adhesive putty. The device has been activated and deactivated. Its internal memory, examined by the CAOC's Technical Security Office at 10:34 p.m., has been erased. But the erasure is not complete. The forensic recovery of the device's flash memory, conducted by a data recovery specialist in a process that requires 47 minutes, recovers partial image data consistent with photographed document pages. The recovered fragments are not sufficient to reconstruct specific target coordinates, but they confirm that images were captured. The device was placed in the restroom before 9:03 p.m. It was there, waiting. The communication track produces the second critical finding at 10:17 p.m. The analyst's digital communication records, his SIPR email, his secure messaging application activity, his JWICS browsing history, are clean in every channel that the standard security audit covers. What is not clean is a channel that the standard security audit does not cover, an unclassified personal device that the analyst brought onto the base in violation of the standing personal electronic device policy for classified spaces. The device is not with him when the security team checks his person at 9:47 p.m. It is recovered from the locking drawer of his workstation at 10:19 p.m., concealed under a physical access roster binder. The device is a personal smartphone. Its screen is locked. Its contents are not immediately accessible, but its cellular activity log, recoverable through the base's mobile device management system, which logs all cellular transmissions from devices active on or near the installation's wireless coverage footprint, shows an outbound data transmission at 9:12 p.m., 1 minute after the analyst exited the third-floor restroom. The transmission lasted 23 seconds. It was sent to a number registered to a commercial prepaid SIM card purchased in Doha. At 10:22 p.m., the investigation has established a TS/SCI document, hard copy, printed without hard copy authorization, a covert photography device pre-positioned in the restroom, partial image capture of at least a portion of the document, a prohibited personal device used to transmit data at 9:12 p.m., 1 minute after exiting the restroom where the photography device was placed and activated, and a recipient number traceable to a prepaid SIM in Doha. The analyst is placed in formal detention at 10:24 p.m. under the UCMJ provisions applicable to his status as a contracted intelligence analyst serving in a combat zone. He does not request representation. He does not speak. He has not spoken since the initial exchange at 9:47 p.m., and his silence, in the context of everything the investigation has now established, is its own kind of answer. The operational question that supersedes everything else at 10:24 p.m. is not whether the analyst passed data. It is whether the data he passed is actionable to whoever received it in the 2 hours and 12 minutes between the 9:12 p.m. transmission and the current moment, and whether Wave 3's strike package needs to be modified before it executes at 1:20 a.m. The target validation summary for Wave 3 covers 22 primary nodes across southern and central Iran. 6 of those nodes are on page 7, the page recovered from the restroom maintenance void. The photograph device captured images of an undetermined number of additional pages before its memory was erased. The reasonable worst-case assessment, that every page of the 31-page document was photographed and transmitted, means that the IRGC has had the full target list for Wave 3 for the past 2 hours. The modification process that begins at 10:31 p.m. under the CAOC commander's direct authority is the most compressed operational replanning exercise in the facility's recent history. 22 targets in 6 hours and 49 minutes. The strike package cannot be cancelled. Wave 3 represents the most comprehensive attack on IRGC command and control infrastructure in Epic Fury's entire operational arc, and its delay or cancellation has strategic consequences that exceed the risk of proceeding with a potentially compromised target list. What can be changed is the approach geometry, the ingress routing, the time on target windows, and the weapon delivery profiles for the 14 targets assessed as highest risk given the intelligence that has potentially been compromised. An IRGC command or logistics facility that knows it is on a strike list and has 90 minutes of warning can activate its defensive systems, disperse its mobile assets, and configure its air defense in ways that significantly increase the risk profile for strike aircraft attacking on predicted vectors and at predicted times. The planning cell works through the 14 priority targets in sequence. For 11 of the 14, the approach geometry changes are executable within the available timeline. New ingress routes, shifted time on target windows, modified weapon delivery profiles that change the attack geometry sufficiently to defeat pre-positioned defensive measures while maintaining the targeting accuracy required against hardened infrastructure. For 3 targets, a deeply buried command coordination node near Isfahan, a missile assembly support facility, and an IRGC Air Defense Coordination Center. The approach geometry modifications required to adequately reduce the risk elevation are not executable within the timeline without unacceptable degradation to weapons effectiveness. Those 3 targets are removed from Wave 3 and held for subsequent strike cycles with fully replanned approaches. At 1:20 a.m., Wave 3 executes. 19 of the original 22 targets are struck. 11 on modified approach geometries that differ from the profiles contained in the compromise document. 8 on original profiles that the planning cell assessed as sufficiently low risk given the specifics of those targets' defensive configurations and geographic positions. The 3 held targets remain on the active list. The IRGC's response to the strike, specifically the activation patterns of its air defense systems and the defensive maneuvers observed at known target sites, provides, in the post-strike battle damage assessment, a partial picture of what information the 9:12 p.m. transmission actually contained. 3 target sites activate their defensive radar systems in the window between 12:40 a.m. and 1 a.m., a window consistent with a 90-minute warning period following a transmission received at 9:12 p.m. All 3 are among the 11 targets where the approach geometry was modified. The defensive activations are observed and recorded. They do not prevent the strikes. The modified approach geometries defeat the pre-positioned defensive measures at all 3 sites, and all 3 are successfully engaged by aircraft that arrived from directions and at altitudes not described in the document the analyst transmitted. The air defense systems that were waiting in the wrong direction. The 11 sites with modified geometries are struck without the air defense pre-activation that characterizes the 3 confirmed compromised sites. The 8 sites on original profiles show no anomalous pre-activation, which is consistent with the partial image recovery, suggesting that the transmitted data was not the full 31-page document, but a subset, likely the pages captured before the photography device's memory approached its capacity, and either filled or was manually stopped. The battle damage assessment confirms all 19 executed strikes as successful against their primary aim points. The 3 held targets are struck in Wave 4, 36 hours later, on fully replanned approaches with no intelligence indication of pre-activation. They are assessed as successful engagements. The analyst's case is transferred to the Department of Justice and the Office of the National Counterintelligence Executive at 6 a.m. on March 4th. The forensic investigation of the prepaid SIM number traces through Qatari telecommunications cooperation facilitated by the bilateral security agreement between U.S. Terror Forces Qatar and the Qatari Ministry of Interior, to a routing architecture that passes through 2 intermediary relay numbers before terminating in a communication pathway associated with an IRGC Intelligence Directorate cutout that Qatari services have been monitoring for 8 months. The connection is not definitive. Prepaid SIM routing through multiple relays does not constitute proof of a specific end recipient. But it is sufficient, combined with the totality of the physical and electronic evidence recovered from the investigation, to sustain the full range of charges that will be filed. What the investigation establishes in the following weeks goes further than the immediate case. The photography device recovered from the restroom maintenance void is a purpose-built unit, not a consumer product, and not a modified commercial item, but a manufactured device with design characteristics that the technical exploitation team at NSA's Hardware Analysis Branch has not previously encountered in collected foreign intelligence equipment. It is assessed as a custom fabrication, compact, fast, capable of imaging a document page in under 2 seconds, with a wireless transmission capability using a frequency-hopping spread spectrum protocol that would not have been visible in any of the CAOC facilities' standard RF monitoring systems. The device was not built for this one operation. The level of engineering investment it represents is consistent with a program designed for repeated use across multiple targets with similar access profiles. That finding, one custom device used once in a facility that hosts the air planning function for the most significant U.S. EO air campaign in 2 decades, carries an implication that the classified annex to the after-action report addresses directly. The device was placed before the analyst printed the document, which means someone with access to Room 14C's physical space installed it. The analyst's own access to that space is documented and routine. Whether he installed the device himself, or whether the device was placed by a second party operating independently with physical access to the same space, is a question that the investigation addresses, but does not definitively close. The answer matters operationally because an unresolved second-party access question is an open counterintelligence gap. The CAOC's Physical Access Review, conducted across all secure spaces in the following week, identifies 3 additional camera dead zones in high-sensitivity areas that are remediated within 48 hours. The restroom void that concealed the device is sealed with a mesh backing that prevents access without visible evidence of tampering. The classified after-action record documents the following. The precise volume of intelligence compromised remains undetermined, bounded by the partial memory recovery and the battle damage assessment's implicit signal about which targets received warning. The print anomaly flag was generated at 9:04 p.m. and reached the information security officer at 9:36 p.m. A 32-minute delay in a chain where every minute reduced the available response time. The system's automated lockout function, designed to prevent exactly this class of unauthorized print event, was scheduled to activate at 1 a.m. rather than at the moment the document was designated for destruction. A gap in the document management system's security architecture that is corrected across all CAOC facilities by emergency directive within 48 hours. The photography device was placed in the restroom before the print job was submitted, which means the operational sequence was planned in advance and the restroom concealment was prearranged, not improvised. The analyst knew he was going to print that document before he submitted the print request. The operation was not opportunistic. It was scheduled. 1 print anomaly flag. 32 minutes in a queue. 11 modified approach geometries. 3 air defense systems that activated in the wrong direction at 12:40 a.m. 19 targets struck successfully. 1 analyst in custody. 1 custom photography device whose design implies a program extending beyond this single operation. And 1 automated lockout schedule that was set to activate 4 hours after the document it was supposed to protect had already left the building. The most durable lesson of the Udeid operation is also the simplest. A document scheduled for destruction at 1:20 a.m. is not protected by a lockout that activates at 1 a.m. The protection has to exist at the moment the schedule is set, not at the moment the schedule executes. The 4-hour gap between designation and lockout was the operational gap the analyst used. It was a gap in the system. The system has been corrected. The document that passed through it has been partially recovered and partially defeated. The mission executed. The record is complete. The line between operational security and operational failure is sometimes a lockout timestamp set 4 hours too late. And the line between a compromised strike and a successful one is a planning cell that works through 22 targets in 2 hours and 49 minutes and changes 11 of them before the aircraft leave the deck.